Today is a new day, and I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which are CSS modules. So basically, when you develop React apps, your styles are not scoped to a particular component. What this means is that, for instance, inside this card component, right? Inside this, let me open UI. You have a button component and this card component. If any div inside this button component and inside this card component have the same class name, that div will be, both of those divs will apply the same styles. Let me just show you what I mean. So for instance, inside this button there's a div here, and if we put this div as maybe there's a class name and call it what we call it, let's call it um my div. So we have this my div right here, and let's inside card, let's put in, okay, let's import card here. Import dot slash card dot css. Yeah, then inside this card dot css, if we put dot my div, I think that's what I named it as. Okay, yeah. I do dot my div and I give it a maybe width of 2000 pixels, for example. Then to make it obvious, color, background color blue, background color blue. Okay. Then I want to render that stuff in here. So after all of this, I can render the button right here. BUTTN. Sorry. Okay, render button right here, and let me import button from, okay, source slash component slash UI slash button. Okay, so go back to button. Okay, so there's an error, can't resolve card.css. Okay. So I have to do dot slash, sorry. So card.css is not in the same place. I can do exactly what I did there. Just find where card.css is. So if we go back one, you can see card, normal card, then card.css should be here. So if I do card.css, okay, that works. And let's go back, sorry, wrong. Let's go back to our browser. Localhost 3000. So this is the button, this stuff over here. So we have our button component right here, and since that button component is not scoped, this my div class, if I put it on something else in another component, it's still going to work. So for instance, if I put, let me go to card here, and I give this my div, I notice that it still applied, everything here turns blue. So like what now happens is that, because if you're working on larger projects, you might not be taking note of all the names of classes you are given. So two different components in different parts of the app can have the same class, and if you make the mistake of importing the same CSS file into that class, sorry, CSS file into that component, is going to have a problem. So there's a way you can scope CSS classes for particular components. One of the most popular ways is through CSS modules. And the way CSS modules work is that it creates a unique class. Let me show you what that means. So if I go back to this card, so we're inside card now, and this card.css, I have to rename it. So what I will now rename, so I'm using CSS modules, I have to rename it as card.module, module.css. So save that, then go here to module.css. So I have these two saved. So but the thing now is that I can't import it like this. So I have to import it, maybe import it as a class or classes from. So what I'm doing is that I'm importing classes from this file. And what I can now do here is, instead of these classes to be like this, or this class name to be like this, rather I can do classes dot card. Okay, I don't want to cross check. Put this here. Okay, so classes of card. If I do that, I go back to my code just to be sure. Say cannot resolve card or CSS inside component or UI. Okay. So what's going on in this, in my button right here? Cannot resolve this. So I can remove this. Since I renamed this, it's not going to show. And I can go back here and we can have our classes back. So we have all of these back. And what this means now is this class name is scoped to this component. Meaning that even if in another component you have classes.card, it will not apply to this particular div. And how that works is that if you go to our dev tools, right, if you go to elements, and inside here we open this, inside here we open this, inside here we open this, I'm looking for card. So if you notice, a new class was applied. So in our code, the class name is just card, classes of card. But when you now go, because they're using CSS modules, it creates a random class name, right? A random class name, and that random class name will be used for those. Not this card is exactly the same card as rendered a few times. So since this is the same card, it will have the same random class name. But even if you use classes.card on another element, so for instance, inside this button, if I go here and I import and I change the name of this to dot module, oh sorry, wrong, so right here, rename, so button dot module, right here. So inside here, what I did, I can just undo this, right? Is in the same place. I can use module. Okay. And this class name, so I want to give it a new class. Maybe I'll use template literals here. You know what? I'm just overcomplicating things. Let me not overcomplicate it. Maybe in another video I will explain how it actually really works. I don't want to overcomplicate it, so you actually just understand when you should use it and how you can use it. Let's not go too much into the technical details. So what CSS modules essentially allows you to do, in a nutshell, is that it allows you to scope CSS classes to components. Meaning that when you style that component, that class that is used to style the component will only be for that component. is especially useful in bigger apps where you might forget the name of classes, and if you put the same class inside different components, you might not know where the problem is from, and debugging will be hell. So this just ensures that you are able to this just ensures that you're able to scope it, meaning that any once I put classes.card, it ensured that it's only this div that class that style will be applied to. It won't be applied outside of the scope of this component. So that's all I wanted to explain today, because going forward on through this 100 days of React, I'm going to be using modules, because that's what I use in my everyday projects instead of normal classes. So I'm just going to be using classes.card, classes.modules. In the next video, we're going to be talking about how to dynamically render components. Sorry, how to dynamically dynamically apply styles. So what that means is that I'm going to give you an example. When you press a button, a style will be added to that component, and when you press the button again, the style will be removed based on a use state or a state of the component. So that's for next. You don't need to worry too much about it. I will explain that in the next video. So that's me for I think it's day 13. See you tomorrow, day 14.